And this morning, I am welcoming a couple of guests. First of all, I say good morning to Patricia Pyle from Stream Team this morning, and she's brought along a wonderful local author by the name of Deborah Ross. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming to see me today. Now, first off, I would like to talk to Deborah Ross, an author locally who managed somehow to come from a career in law and energy policy to become a writer. How did you manage that transition?
That's the number one question that people always have for me.
Yeah.
I've been trying to retire from energy and law for a number of years and never quite managed to completely retire. But I was working as a volunteer at the Washington State Library for the newspaper indexing project, where they're taking very old newspapers and putting them online for anybody to read. And I happened to run across this family, the Schneider family, that were early pioneers in Olympia. Conrad Schneider actually came here in 1852, which was the biggest year of the Oregon Trail migration.
And he brought his Swedish bride.
That's right. She was a teenager at the time.
Wow, and they came all the way from Burlington, Iowa, of
That's
all places.
right.
All right. So now they've come all the way to Olympia, and you've done a whole bunch of research, and you've written this wonderful novel called Conrad and Albertina.
Right.
Which was back in 2009, wasn't it? Did the book
Yes, it was published about 2.5 years ago now.
And now you're working on a sequel.
I am.
Schneider's Creek.
I'm going to be taking the next generation. The Schneiders had 9 children.
Wow.
8 of them survived to adulthood, so you can imagine that they spread their roots all over Thurston County and beyond.
Okay. We'll talk more about the history here momentarily. Patricia Pyle with Stream Team is with us this morning. I'm glad she brought you along. Now, Stream Team is going to be sponsoring a free local history talk, and everything we're talking about here today, Deb Ross is going to be going over to Traditions Cafe on April, the 17th?
Yes, 17th.
Is that a Tuesday night?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Next Tuesday.
All right, Traditions Cafe in downtown Olympia to have this big free talk. Tell me how Stream Team got involved in this one.
Well, Schneider Creek is on the west side of Olympia, and that creek is named for the Schneider family, but believe it or not, there's 2 other creeks in Thurston County that are also named after the Schneider family. And these are some of the stories that Deb's going to tell next week at her talk on Tuesday night. She's going to talk about how the Schneider family really influenced Thurston County resources, how they used the resources and prospered here in Thurston County in the pioneer years, and then as well, I guess, into the early 20th century.
So from Stream Team's point of view, then, you're trying to understand this history of how these resources were used.
Yes.
And what, to see if we can learn from our mistakes. Is that what you said there?
A little bit. I think it's good for, there's a lot of newcomers in Thurston County, and it's good to know the local history and, just where we were at. And, these changes have happened in a relatively short period of time. Deb just said that Conrad Schneider came in 1852. Well, that's, 160 years ago. So it's not really that long ago.
Right.
And the major changes that have happened. I mean, right here at KGY, we can look across Butt Inlet, and we can see Schneider Creek, where Schneider Creek is. And so you can kind of envision a completely different environment 150 years ago.
Right.
No motor cars, no motorboats, a much different environment.
All right, so Deb Ross, author of Deb Ross, the author of the novel Conrad and Albertina. All right, so we've got a pioneer family. The Schneiders, they are in Burlington, Iowa, and he's a stonemason, is he not, at the time?
That's right. He came out here, and either before he left or shortly after he got here, he got the contract to build the new Dungeness Lighthouse, which is up in Sequim, Washington.
Right.
So he would have left his young family and gone up there and built the lighthouse. And part of the novel of Conrad and Albertina is the story of him going up there and where he got the stone from.
Right.
and
Now,
building it.
eventually, though, the wife comes out to join him, and then he puts out word to his nephew, John. He says, come join me here on the West Coast. So John comes out,
Right.
and they are promptly arrested for theft. What did they steal?
Well, they were never convicted or even indicted for the theft, so we don't know exactly what happened, but young John, who was a teenager himself, was charged with stealing a watch from local merchant downtown.
A watch.
A gold watch worth $90, which would
Wow.
have been a fortune back then.
All right. So how does Conrad fall into this then? I mean, why is he arrested?
Well, apparently he was charged with helping John to conceal this watch.
Ah. All right. So now this causes a big fallout with his brother-in-law, does it not?
Yes, and we don't know exactly what happened, but at one point, John, after he was set free, went and lived with his brother-in-law, and we don't know exactly whatever even happened to John. He disappeared from history shortly after that. But the two brothers or brothers-in-law who were very, very close, they were next-door neighbors and came out together. Soon after that, Conrad moved out here, as Patricia says, straight across from where we're looking here at the studio, and the brother-in-law stayed back in Yelm.
A stonemason's throw, as it were, just from here. All right, so now we've got the Schneider family here, and they start to prosper, and they start to buy all of this land. And, I mean, they acquired a lot of land down here, didn't
Yes,
they?
over 1,000 acres overall.
Wow. All right, I mean, we're talking about land at the mouth of the creek. They eventually got land claims all the way up to, what, Eld and Totten Inlets and Lake Summit. I mean, they grabbed up a lot of property.
Right. I think it was Conrad's policy to ask his children to acquire this land through homesteading and also outright purchase. By the 1890s, Conrad was listed as the 10th wealthiest person in Thurston County
Wow.
on paper.
Wow. Okay. If you're just joining us this morning, we are talking with author Deborah Ross and Patricia Pryl from Stream Team about the Schneider family, a historic family from this area. And, of course, this is all in anticipation of the big free local history talk that'll be coming to Traditions Cafe on Tuesday, April 17th, and that's in downtown Olympia. So now, I guess when you come out 150, 160 years ago, you have to be able to utilize whatever resources are at hand. And I think this is where the tie with the Stream Team comes in here. Patricia, how did you see them utilizing these resources? What kind of resources are we talking about here?
Well, timber, lumber, of course.
Right.
You know, well, I've actually read Deb's book myself, just on my own free time, which is an excellent book, Conrad and Albertina. When they settled on the west side here, because at first they were south of town.
Right.
When they settled on the west side, you know, they had to make their living, and they had apple orchards. Correct?
Yeah, they had apple orchards. They engaged in all kinds of diversified farming, what we'd call today diversified agriculture. They even apparently grew something that was used as a substitute for tobacco.
Interesting. And it actually grew in this wet, soggy climate, apparently.
That's what they say.
All right.
But
all right.
some of the intrigue, though, comes with the fact that Budd Inlet is a very shallow inlet.
At the time before they dredged it, yeah.
Yes, and so, you know, that's where also Stream Team has been interested because of looking at our historic shoreline, downtown Olympia. Downtown Olympia has about over 400 acres of fill, and the fill came from dredge spoils of Budd Inlet, as well as taming some of these hillsides and not having them be so steep. They would kind of pull them down and lay back the hillside and put that soil material somewhere else.
Well, we're standing on it.
Yeah, you're right.
And as we speak here at the KGY studios, it all got piled into downtown, and I don't think people realize that the inlets went way further into town than they used to be. There was a time that State Avenue was the shoreline. I mean, that was it. So, yes, we've changed a lot over the years, and I'm excited that Stream Team's going to be doing one of their historic shoreline walks coming up. Are you both going on the walk? Are you both going to be on this one coming up?
Well, the shoreline walks won't start until the summertime, but we're doing them right now with schools, with school groups, with the Olympia School District.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can't know where you are going until you know where we have been, I guess is the way to look at this. All right. Deborah Ross, now you've got the sequel coming out, Schneider's Creek. When can we see the new book? When do you think?
I'm still doing research on it, and I expect I have several more months of research to do, reading old newspapers and hunting up more descendants and finding new stories. So I'm going to guess it's at least a year or more out.
Okay. I would be excited to hear what you find, because it's tough to find history on places like this, because you have to rely on newspaper articles and whatever slant they happen to take at the time. But I know you're going to do well, and I'm hoping you have great success with your new book when it comes out as well.
Thank you so much.
All right. And again, this is a big talk, the free local history talk on the Schneider family with Deb Ross. And you're going to be there, Patricia, won't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, of course.
Absolutely. This talk is actually, I think, going to be a little bit of a tease from the research that Deb has already sort of pulled together. She's putting this talk together specifically for Stream Team, which is also going to focus on water travel, using resources, just kind of a comprehensive look at the way that people used resources of Thurston County, 150 years ago, 160 years ago.
You want to learn about where we live? This is a great opportunity. Tuesday, April 17th from 7 until 8 o'clock in the evening at Traditions Cafe in downtown Olympia. And there you go, author Deb Ross. I appreciate you joining me this morning.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
And Patricia Pyle, I know you're going to come back and talk with me lots about Stream Team activities through the summer. You know where the microphone is.
Absolutely. It's my favorite radio talk show.
All right. Thank you both for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
This is AM 1240 KGY.